Barbara, I have a spreadsheet here that I have multiple people entering information into. And here's my problem. I need to be able to sort and filter to a certain position. And if you'll notice, we have some abbreviations in there. And sometimes people use the abbreviations, sometimes they don't. And so the consistency is not there. And it's really causing me to lose some data and when I filter out. Is there a way that I can force somebody to enter in exactly what I have in there?
There is. And it really helps because, of course, when we're working with a database, consistency is so important. So we can set the standard of what needs to be in there. First of all, you said the position column. So I'm assuming sales associate, senior sales, and sales reps are the areas that you want them to choose from.
Yes.
All right, let's create a list off to the right using those three.
Okay.
Now, the easiest way to do this, remember our copy and paste?
Yes.
We're going to do a shortcut version of it.
Okay.
So if you remember when we talked about highlighting, we said that you could select cells that were not next to each other. Do you remember how to do that?
I do. The control button.
Right. So why don't you select one occurrence of each item that you want in your list?
Okay, this one's good, this one, and this one.
Okay, so you clicked on sales associate and you clicked on senior sales and sales rep. Put your mouse over them and click your right mouse button. Notice copy is there.
Yes.
So let's just click copy. There's your moving marquee. And just come out here to the right, let's say maybe column L.
Okay.
And right click and paste.
I'm just going to choose this first one. Is that okay? Oh,
that
there
one
they are.
works. And of course, if you'd wanted something different, you have the little drop down that came with the paste, and you could have controlled your paste options.
Okay.
Because we're done. So let's get rid of our moving marquee.
I'm going to hit escape.
Right.
All right, good.
All right, now that we have our list, let's go back over to our spreadsheet, and we want to highlight the column where we want that list.
Okay. That would be this column C.
Column C. That way, when we set up our validation rule, it'll be in every cell in this column.
Okay.
Now, up on your ribbon, can you guess which tab we want to go to if we're dealing with data?
Well, there is a data tab.
There sure is. So let's go click on data.
All right, let's do it.
In your data tab, we have a lot of really cool options. And one of them is an area called data tools.
Okay.
And smack in the middle of data tools is data validation.
Ah.
You want to validate what they're entering. That's
do.
what we're trying to do. So let's click on data validation.
Okay.
There you go. Notice you have a couple of options here. Let's choose data validation.
Okay.
And here's where you get to determine what it is you want to control.
All right.
Under the Allow, click on the drop down next to any value. Notice we could say, hey, we want a whole number, we can allow decimal places, we want a list, we only want a date, we want a certain text length. So if you want to control how many characters they type into that particular box, you could choose text length.
Okay.
Obviously, we're going to deal with
A list.
a list because we've created a list. So let's click on list. You do have the opportunity over there to say if the field is blank, ignore it, and to have this drop down list in the cell. We want the drop down list in the cell. Now, do you always want an entry in the position field?
Yes, I do.
Then we probably don't want to ignore blank.
Okay.
So we'll turn that off. And then our source is our list.
Okay.
And there's that little red pointing arrow, so let's click on it. And where's your list?
Over here
So
in
just-
L1,
Right.
L2, and L3.
All right, and how do you go back?
The red down arrow.
And there it's picked up your range. Now, before we go any further, one of the most frustrating things is if it says, error, but it doesn't tell me what I did wrong.
Right.
So let's look at the next tab, which says input message.
Okay.
And in this case, you can give the input message a title. Maybe you just call it position choices or position options or position titles, whatever works for you.
Okay.
And then what message do you think would be useful here?
Well, maybe some instructions on what they should be doing.
Okay.
All right. So maybe please select a position.
All right. Or please select from the list.
Okay. How about that?
Okay. And then you also have error alert. That's the third tab in this dialog box.
Okay.
And what would happen is if they've tried to input data that doesn't match your list, your validation.
Like they try to type it in.
Right.
Okay.
So here you would create the error message that they would receive. So what kind of error message? First of all, the style there says stop. That's that symbol. So you could do a warning or information. Probably information's probably a little friendlier, don't you think?
Okay.
Now it's up to you. You could put the warning one. Let's look at the other symbol just so everybody can see warning. So it's up to you which one you want to do, which one you think they'll notice more.
Okay. Well, this is a pretty crusty group. I would say that if I don't give them a stop, that they might do their own thing.
All right, then let's put the stop in.
Okay.
All right, and your title of your error message, what would you like to call it?
Well, would I just put error or?
You could do incorrect entry.
Okay, ooh, that's good. Okay.
And then your message probably would be very similar to your input message. Please select from the drop-down list.
How about that?
Works for me.
Can I put an exclamation point in there?
If you feel very strongly about it.
I do. I
All
feel
right,
very strongly
let's click
about
OK.
that.
Although I will tell you, putting an exclamation point in there could be offensive to some people. They may feel like they're being yelled at.
Okay.
So that's a decision you have to make, but just keep that in mind too.
Okay, that's good to know.
All right, let's click OK.
Ooh.
Notice that you're on cell C4, and you see what's changed here.
Well, a couple of things actually. Now I have a note here that is telling me some instructions on what to do. And I also noticed that there's a down arrow.
Right, so let's click on the down arrow. There are your options.
There's my options. So the other thing I would want to check is what if somebody tries to enter something in there?
Why don't you put, let's put another row of data and let's just add a person for a moment. Let's add you, row 8.
Okay.
Why don't you put yourself in? Or you can just make up Jane Doe if you want to, whatever makes sense to you. Okay, now tab over and let's see if it works.
Ooh.
Okay, there's your
is.
message. So you said sometimes they spell out senior. Why don't you do that?
Let's see what happens. Ah, incorrect entry. Please select from the drop-down list. So
Okay.
I'm going to retry and
Cancel.
okay. There
you
we go.
Now, one of the things you might want to consider, because notice if you hit retry, it was a little buggy there because it took you back to the highlight. You might want to, in your message, say, please click cancel and then choose from the drop-down list. The more information you can give them in that error message to do it correctly, the better off it is.
Oh, that's a great idea. All right, so if I want to do this for any of the columns, I just need to select the column first and make sure that I have my list over here on the side of one of those items each.
Right.
Then go to the validation tools and do data validation, make my selections there, and then apply it.
Exactly. One more thing I want to show you about data validation is if a lot of people are using the spreadsheet, you may have cells that have the wrong entry in them from before when you set up the validation rule.
Okay.
There is a way to get Excel to find those for you.
Oh, awesome.
So let's go back to the Data tab, into our Data Tools group, and choose Data Validation.
Okay.
Notice you have Circle Invalid Data. It'll find it and put a red circle around it. So let's click on that. And it says we have quite a few. Now it's probably seeing some blank cells in here because this is a tiny snapshot of your spreadsheet.
Sure.
But let's click OK.
And we said that we weren't going to allow blank cells, so
That's
it's just
true.
picking that up.
That's true.
Yeah.
Very good. And there you go. Notice you do have an entry.
Oh, yeah.
So you could click in there, choose your drop down, and choose the correct one. and you've got it taken care of.
Great. Now, I don't want to print this with all those red circles.
So let's get rid of that. Let's
Okay.
go back up to the Data tab, Data Tools, and choose Data Validation.
Okay.
And there's a Clear Validation Circles option. So you clear, and they're gone.
Perfect. That is very helpful, especially on files that I receive from other people if I'm looking for consistency.
This is true.